The scale read negative 47,000 pounds when I drove my fully loaded Peterbilt onto it, and that's when the attendant smiled with too many teeth. I'd pulled into the Montana Way station at 2:47 a.m. on March 14, 2023, hauling refrigerated pharmaceuticals from Seattle to Minneapolis. My rig loaded should have weighed roughly 79,000 pounds. The digital display flickered, settled on that impossible negative number, and the gate behind me slammed down hard enough to crack the concrete. My name is Patricia Sullivan, and I've been running long-haul routes for 12 years. I know every way station between the Pacific and the Great Lakes. This one shouldn't exist. I'd driven this stretch of I-90 463 times. There'd never been a station at mile marker 187, just empty Montana grassland and darkness. But there it was, blazing with fluorescent lights that hurt to look at, the kind of light that doesn't illuminate so much as expose. The attendant tapped on my window. I hadn't seen him approach. He was there, suddenly, his knuckles rapping against the glass in a rhythm that felt wrong, syncopated, like a heartbeat with an extra chamber. I rolled down the window. The March air should have been freezing, but it was body temperature warm and smelled like copper and vanilla. "Gonna need you to step into the office, ma'am," he said. His voice was pleasant, professional, completely at odds with his face. He looked normal at first glance. Middle-aged, regulation uniform, coffee-stained clipboard. But his smile extended too far back along his jawline, disappearing behind his ears. I counted 17 teeth across the front when there should have been 8. "The scale's malfunctioning," I said. "I'm showing negative weight." "No malfunction." He tilted his head at an angle that would have broken a human neck. "You're measuring exactly what you're carrying. Please, the office. It's required for negative readings." I should have thrown the truck in reverse, smashed through that gate. The air brake was already hissing, my hand on the shifter. But my legs swung down from the cab anyway, independent of my will, moving like they belonged to someone else. I followed him across the lot. Each footstep on the concrete sounded hollow, echoing wrong, like we were walking across a frozen lake instead of solid ground. The office was smaller inside than outside. Impossible, but true. The exterior building was maybe 40 feet across. The interior was a narrow corridor no more than 6 feet wide, stretching back into darkness the fluorescent lights couldn't reach. Filing cabinets lined both walls, each drawer labeled with combinations of letters and numbers that made my eyes hurt to focus on. The attendant gestured to a chair, metal, industrial, with restraint straps hanging loose from the arms and legs. "That's not necessary," I said. My voice came out smaller than intended. "Depends what you're hauling inside." He consulted his clipboard, running a finger down a list written in something darker than ink. Patricia Sullivan, 43 years old. Divorced, 2 children, no contact for 6 years, drives alone, always drives alone. Last human conversation, excluding CB chatter and dispatch calls, was 9 days ago at a pilot station in Spokane. Is that correct? I hadn't told him my name. My license and registration were still in the cab. "How do you—" "The scale measures what you're carrying inside," he interrupted. "Your truck weighs 78,942 pounds, standard load. But you, Patricia, you weigh negative 47,000 pounds. Do you understand what that means?" I didn't. I did. Some part of my brain that still believed in logic said this was impossible. A hallucination from too many hours driving, too many energy drinks, the line between asleep and awake blurring. But a deeper, older part recognized truth. I'm empty. Emptier than empty. He flipped to a new page. "You're a void, a hollow space shaped like a person. It happens to long haulers sometimes. You spend so much time in transit, never arriving, never home, always between places. Eventually, the between becomes all there is. The destination disappears. The origin disappears. Just the endless middle, and the middle can't hold a person. It holds nothing. The corridor stretched darker behind him. I could hear sounds from deep inside, other voices crying or maybe laughing I couldn't distinguish. Metal scraping metal, the hydraulic hiss of air brakes, dozens of them in sequence like breathing. I feel real, I said. I'm here. I'm solid. He reached out and pressed his hand against my shoulder. His fingers sank in, not painfully, but wrong. Like I was made of gel, of substance without structure. You feel real because you remember being real. Cellular memory. But you've been hollow for approximately 2,300 miles. Since somewhere around Missoula. You probably don't remember it happening. They never do. You just kept driving. I looked down at my hands. They appeared normal, calloused, fingernails chewed short, a scar across my left thumb from changing a tire in the rain outside Boise 7 years ago. The scar was still there. I could see it. But when I focused, really focused, I could see through them just slightly. The filing cabinet behind my hand was visible through the flesh, like looking through cloudy water. What happens now? The question came out as a whisper. Standard procedure for negative weight readings. He moved behind me toward the chair. We fill you back up. Can't have hollow drivers on the interstate. It's a safety hazard. You might collapse, cause an accident, so we fill the space with something else, something that can drive, something that knows how to keep moving. The corridor erupted with sound, all those air brakes releasing at once a massive exhalation. The filing cabinets began opening on their own, drawer after drawer sliding out in sequence. Inside each drawer wasn't paperwork. It was darkness, but active darkness, moving darkness, darkness with intent and hunger. I ran. My hollow legs carried me fast, faster than I should have been able to move, back down the corridor toward the entrance. The door was further away than it should have been, receding with each step, but I kept running. Behind me, the attendant's voice called out, still pleasant, still professional. You can't leave, Patricia. Negative readings aren't cleared until the weight is corrected. It's regulations. The darkness from the filing cabinets poured into the corridor like liquid smoke, filling the space behind me, rising like floodwater. It touched my heel and felt cold, so profoundly cold it burned. I could feel it trying to push inside through my skin, seeking the emptiness it sensed, the void that should have been filled with life and wasn't. I crashed through the door, it was suddenly right there, and sprinted across the lot to my truck. The cab door was still open. I grabbed the handle and pulled myself up, slamming the door behind me. Through the window, I could see the office. The darkness had reached the entrance, pouring out onto the concrete, spreading toward my truck in branching streams like veins. The key was in the ignition. The engine was still running. I threw the transmission into reverse, felt the jake brake disengage, pressed the accelerator. The truck lurched backward, the trailer swinging, and smashed through the gate. Metal screamed. Something in the suspension cracked. I didn't care. I reversed onto the interstate, into the empty westbound lane, saw headlights approaching fast and swerved. Horns blared. I straightened the wheel, found drive, and accelerated east. In the passenger side mirror, I watched the way station recede. The fluorescent lights dimmed, flickered, went dark. The building seemed to fold in on itself, collapsing into geometry that didn't work, angles that couldn't exist in 3 dimensions. Within seconds, there was nothing but empty grassland and darkness. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I could still see through them, that faint transparency, the world visible through my flesh. I pressed my palm against my thigh, felt the contact, felt the pressure. Still hollow. Still negative weight. Still empty inside. I drove through the night, through Wyoming into South Dakota. The sun rose over the Badlands, and in the daylight my hands looked solid again. opaque, real. I told myself it had been exhaustion, hallucination, nothing more. But I knew. I could feel the emptiness inside, the space where something should have been and wasn't, the space that wanted to be filled. At a truck stop outside Rapid City, I watched other drivers in the diner. They laughed, complained about dispatchers, showed pictures of their kids on their phones. They were full of life, of presence, of weight. I ordered coffee and couldn't taste it. The waitress asked if I was all right, and I smiled and said fine, just tired. She looked at me with concern, like she could see something wrong, something missing, but didn't know how to articulate it. I've been driving for 6 days since Montana. I haven't stopped for more than fuel and required rest breaks. I'm afraid if I stop too long, if I try to arrive anywhere, try to be anywhere except in transit, the hollowness will finish what it started. The way station will find me again, or something like it. I keep moving because moving is all I have left, all I am. Sometimes late at night on empty interstates, I see signs for way stations that don't exist on any map. They're always open, always brightly lit, always waiting. I drive past them. The scales in my mind read negative 47,000 pounds and dropping, the number getting larger, the negative growing deeper. I'm becoming more empty every mile, less Patricia Sullivan, more just the act of driving, the eternal transit with no origin and no destination. Just the between, always the between. And the between can't hold a person. It can only hold something else. Story 2. The convoy that never ends. I'd been following the same 17 trucks for 400 miles when I realized none of them had license plates. My name is Marcus Chen, and I should have noticed sooner, but it was one of those things your brain dismisses until the wrongness accumulates enough to break through. I-40 through New Mexico, October 9, 2022, hauling electronics from Albuquerque to Oklahoma City. The convoy formed around me somewhere past Santa Rosa, trucks merging onto the highway from entrances I don't remember seeing, falling into formation like a military procession. Perfect spacing. Exactly 73 feet between each vehicle. I measured using the roadside markers, 73 feet, consistent, unchanging, mile after mile. They all drove precisely 68 miles per hour. My cruise control was set to 70, but I couldn't gain on them. The speedometer read 70. The GPS confirmed 70. But the convoy stayed the same distance ahead, that perfect 73-foot gap never closing. The sun was setting, turning the New Mexico desert the color of infected wounds when I noticed the license plates, or the absence of them. Every truck in the convoy, 17 of them I'd counted multiple times, had empty mounting brackets where plates should have been. Front and rear, just brackets and darkness. Not removed plates, not covered plates. The space where plates should exist was wrong, like looking at a photograph with sections cut out, void spaces that hurt to focus on. I tried the CB radio. Channel 19, the standard trucker frequency. This is eastbound driver at mile marker 294. Anybody in the convoy ahead want to identify themselves? Static. Not empty static, but textured, full of fragments that might have been words in a language that predated language. I tried channel 17, channel 21, scanned through all 40. Every channel carried the same static, the same almost voices. The truck directly in front of me was a Kenworth W900 classic long nose pulling a 53-foot dry van. The trailer was white, pristine. No company markings, no dot number, nothing. Just white interrupted by that void space where the license plate should have been. I could see the driver's silhouette in the cab, head forward, hands at 10 and 2. Perfect driving posture, never moving. Not shifting position, not adjusting, not even the slight movements humans make unconsciously. Statue still, I should have exited. Tucumcari was coming up, mile marker 329, fuel and food and other humans. But when I put on my turn signal, my arm moving independent of conscious thought, the truck beside me, I hadn't noticed it there before, drifted into the exit lane, blocking me. Another white van, another pristine tractor, another motionless driver. I tried to slow down, let the convoy pass, but my foot on the brake pedal produced no response. The speedometer still read 70, but now I wasn't sure if I was controlling the truck or if something else was. Darkness came fast, the way it does in the desert, transitioned from day to night in 30 minutes. The convoy's running lights illuminated in sequence, front to back, each truck lighting up exactly 1 second after the one ahead. A wave of red and amber rolling through the formation. Beautiful and terrible. My own lights came on automatically, but they seemed dimmer than they should have been, like the bulbs were obscured by something invisible. At mile marker 356, the convoy exited. All 17 trucks, simultaneous turn signals moving in perfect synchronization onto an off-ramp that wasn't on my GPS. No services listed, no town, just an exit number, 369, that didn't match the mile marker. I tried to stay on the main highway. My hands turned the wheel anyway, following the convoy, my truck moving with the precision of the others, maintaining that 73-foot gap. The exit led to a 2-lane road cutting north through absolute emptiness. No lights except the convoy. No buildings, no fences, no signs of human presence. The asphalt was perfect though, fresh and black, painted lines glowing too bright in the headlights. The road curved and straightened in patterns that felt mathematical, intentional, like driving through an equation made physical. We drove for an hour, maybe longer. Time felt negotiable, elastic. My dashboard clock read 7:43 p.m. for what seemed like 40 minutes before jumping to 9:17 p.m. in an instant. The convoy never varied speed, never broke formation. I tried the CB again. This time I heard voices. Maintaining interval, Saradaku formation stable. New unit integrated at position 18. Position 18. That was me. I was position 18 now, part of the convoy, counted and cataloged and integrated into whatever this was. I didn't agree to this, I said into the CB, my voice cracking. I want to leave. I need to... Destination approaching, a voice interrupted. Gender neutral, affect neutral, the kind of voice GPS systems aspire to but never achieve. All units prepare for intake processing. Ahead, light bloomed on the horizon. Not city light, not natural light. Industrial light, the kind that turns night into a simulation of day, harsh and clinical. We crested a rise and I saw it. The facility. It sprawled across the desert floor, acres of concrete and metal, buildings that looked grown rather than built. Architecture that followed rules I didn't recognize. Loading docks lined with trucks, hundreds of them, thousands, extending beyond what I could see, all white, all pristine, all empty of markings. The convoy descended toward it, and I descended with them, locked in formation. We pulled into the dock area, and the precision became terrifying. Each truck backed into a bay simultaneously, all 17 of us guided by some shared awareness I could feel but not understand. My hands worked the wheel, my feet the pedals, but they weren't mine anymore. They belonged to the convoy, to the facility. My trailer docked with a pneumatic hiss. The connection was immediate, invasive. I felt it, physically felt it, like something had plugged directly into my nervous system through the truck. The sensation of being emptied, of cargo I didn't know I was carrying being removed, pulled out through the trailer connection and into the facility's hunger. The cab door opened on its own. I couldn't stop my body from climbing down, from walking toward the entrance where other drivers filed in, all moving with that same synchronized precision. I counted 43 drivers ahead of me in line. They all looked wrong somehow. Too uniform, like variations on a theme rather than distinct individuals. I wondered if I looked wrong now too. if whatever made me Marcus Chen was being overwritten by something else. The entrance was a tunnel lined with translucent material that pulsed with inner light, organic and technological simultaneously. Walking through it felt like being swallowed. The other drivers ahead of me disappeared around a curve. I heard machinery, rhythmic and wet, processing sounds that suggested flesh as much as metal. I stopped, or tried to. My legs kept walking, but my consciousness pushed back, fighting the synchronization. It felt like splitting in half, my body moving forward while my mind screamed resistance. The sensation was agony, like every nerve was being pulled in opposite directions. Unit 18 experiencing deviation, that GPS voice announced, from everywhere and nowhere. Applying corrective measures. The tunnel constricted. The walls pressed inward and the pulsing light accelerated, strobing now, frequencies designed to induce compliance. I felt my resistance weakening, the part of me that was Marcus Chen dissolving like sugar in water. The convoy didn't want individuals. It wanted units, synchronized, integrated, part of the greater mechanism. I bit through my lip, used the pain to anchor consciousness. Blood flooded my mouth, hot and copper and mine. Proof I was still individual, still separate. I grabbed the tunnel wall. It felt like muscle tissue covered in plastic, and pulled, trying to tear through, trying to break the swallowing motion, drawing me deeper. The wall ruptured. Not a clean tear, but a split that oozed fluid that wasn't quite liquid, wasn't quite gas, something between states of matter. An alarm sounded, discordant and biological, like a wounded animal. The tunnel convulsed around me. I ran back toward the entrance, or where the entrance had been. The tunnel rearranged itself, geometry shifting, trying to prevent escape. Doors that hadn't existed opened to reveal chambers where drivers sat in rows, connected to machinery through ports in their skulls. Their eyes open but empty. Their mouths moving in perfect unison, speaking in that GPS voice, reporting status and location and readiness. I found an opening, not the entrance, but a service passage, narrow and dark. I forced myself through, my jacket tearing on exposed metal, my shoulder scraping concrete, and emerged into the loading dock area. My truck was still there, but different. The cargo box had been opened from the inside, empty now. Empty in a way that suggested it had never carried electronics, had carried something else, something the facility needed. I climbed into the cab. The key was still in the ignition, but the truck wouldn't respond. Dead electrical, dead engine, dead everything. Through the windshield, I saw drivers emerging from other trucks, moving toward me in that synchronized way, their faces neutral, their intentions clear. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from behind the seat, smashed the passenger window, and climbed through. The glass shredded my forearms. I dropped to the concrete and ran between the rows of parked trucks, hundreds of them, all identical, all waiting. The facility extended in every direction, apparently endless, a maze of loading docks and warehouses and processing centers. I found a perimeter fence 12 feet tall, chain link topped with razor wire. I climbed it anyway, the wire opening cuts across my hands and thighs, pain that felt like proof of continued existence. I dropped on the other side and ran into the desert, no direction, just away. Behind me, lights blazed brighter. I heard engines starting, dozens of them, a coordinated ignition sequence. The convoy would pursue, they always pursued. Once you'd been integrated, even partially, you became property, a resource to be reclaimed. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs collapsed, until dawn broke over the desert. When I finally looked back, there was nothing. No facility, no lights, no convoy. Just empty desert and the distant line of I-40 shimmering in the heat. I flagged down a trucker, a real one, human, confused and concerned. He gave me water and a ride to Tucumcari. I told him I'd been in an accident, that I'd lost my truck. He believed me, or pretended to. At the hospital, they stitched my cuts and asked questions I couldn't answer. My truck was found 3 days later, parked at a rest stop outside Oklahoma City. The cargo was intact, delivered, all equipment accounted for. The GPS showed a normal route, no deviations, no unexplained exits. I'd apparently driven straight through, made the delivery on time, parked and walked away. But I remember the convoy. I remember the facility. And sometimes, late at night on empty highways, I see them in my mirrors. 17 white trucks maintaining perfect spacing, exactly 73 feet apart. And behind them, always behind them, an 18th space waiting to be filled. Story 3. The passenger who already arrived. The woman in my passenger seat had been at the delivery location for 3 hours before I picked her up, and she had photographs to prove it. I'm Jennifer Kowalski, running a dedicated lane from Detroit to Nashville. Automotive parts mostly, predictable and boring until February 3rd, 2023. I picked up the hitchhiker outside Toledo 11:47 p.m. against every safety protocol and personal rule I'd ever established. But she was standing in the emergency lane in the snow, wearing a summer dress, no coat, no shoes. And when I passed her, our eyes met in my mirror, and I knew, with that deep, undeniable knowing that bypasses logic, that I had to stop. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards flashing. She approached the passenger side, opened the door before I could reach over to unlock it, and climbed in with movements that seemed slightly delayed, like watching a video with audio sync issues. Her skin was blue-gray with cold, but she wasn't shivering. Hypothermia, I thought. Advanced stage. Hospital, I said. You need immediate... Nashville, she interrupted. Her voice was wrong, layered, like two people speaking simultaneously with one slightly behind the other. You're going to Nashville, 2847 Riverside Industrial Drive. That's where you're going. That's where I am. That's my delivery address. I hadn't told her that. The information wasn't visible anywhere in the cab. How did you... She held up a phone, the screen illuminated. A photograph. The image showed my truck, my specific truck with my license plate visible, parked at a loading dock. The dock sign read, Riverside Industrial Drive. In the photo's background, visible through a window, was a digital clock, displaying 6:23 a.m. The date stamp on the photo read February 4th, 2023, tomorrow, and the metadata showed it had been taken 3 hours and 14 minutes ago. I'm there now, she said, her dual-layered voice creating harmonics that made my teeth ache. I've been there for 3 hours, waiting for me to arrive. But I can't arrive until you take me there, except I'm already there, so I've been waiting, and it's getting confused about which me is real. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Snow was accumulating on the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. This is impossible. This photograph can't exist. I'm not in Nashville. I won't be there until morning. She smiled, and her mouth moved wrong, the expression propagating across her face in a wave rather than appearing all at once. Time isn't a line. It's a probability field, and sometimes fields collapse wrong. I collapsed wrong. I'm in two places, existing in two moments, and the tension is tearing me apart. Can you feel it? The pulling? I could. The air in the cab felt stretched, taut, like reality was being pulled thin between 2 points. My GPS showed Toledo behind me, Nashville ahead, 387 miles remaining. But the passenger side mirror showed something else. When I glanced at it, I could see not the highway behind us, but a loading dock, industrial and gray, where a figure in a summer dress stood waiting. Don't look at the mirrors, she said. It makes the tearing worse. Just drive. Take me to where I already am. Maybe if we arrive together, both versions, the collapse will stabilize. I should have stopped. Should have called police, emergency services, anyone. But I was already driving, accelerating back onto I-75, heading south through the snow. The truck felt wrong, the steering too responsive, the engine too quiet, like I was driving a memory of a truck rather than the physical thing. She showed me more photographs, dozens of them, hundreds, an endless scroll through her phone. All taken at the Nashville delivery location, all dated tomorrow, all time-stamped progressively further into the future. In them, I could see myself, future me, in various stages of the delivery process. Backing into the dock, opening the trailer, talking to the dock supervisor. Each photo was slightly off, though. My movements jerky, discontinuous, like frames had been removed from the sequence of my life. "It's trying to fix itself," she explained, her voice becoming more asynchronous, the two layers drifting further apart. "Reality is trying to resolve the paradox, but it can't decide which version to keep, me here or me there, so it's fragmenting both. I'm becoming optional, provisional, not quite real in either location." The snow intensified. I-75 through Kentucky was usually busy even at night, but we hadn't passed another vehicle in 40 minutes. The highway stretched empty in both directions, and the mile markers were wrong. We'd gone from mile marker 142 to mile marker 89 in 30 seconds, geography compressing, the distance between Toledo and Nashville collapsing like the probability field she'd mentioned. "It's speeding us up," I said. "Trying to get you there faster. Trying to resolve the paradox." She was flickering now, her physical form losing cohesion. I could see through her to the passenger door, her body translucent, becoming optional. "But the faster we go, the worse it gets. I'm there waiting for 3 hours. Every mile we drive toward Nashville, that 3 hours extends. I'll have been waiting longer, 4 hours now, 5. Time at the destination keeps accumulating while we're trying to reach it." My phone rang. The dashboard screen showed Jennifer Kowalski as the caller ID. My own name. I answered on the truck's Bluetooth, and my own voice spoke from the speakers. "Stop driving. You can't arrive. I'm here at the delivery location, and I've been waiting for you for 7 hours. The dock supervisor says the delivery was supposed to be at 6 a.m., but it's 1 p.m. now. And you're not here, but I am, but I'm you, but I'm still waiting for me to arrive with the truck." I ended the call. The passenger, the hitchhiker, the woman who was already at the destination, was barely visible now. Just an outline, a suggestion of a person. Her voice came from everywhere, no longer localized to the passenger seat. "It's splitting you too. You're becoming me. Or I'm becoming you. The paradox is expanding, incorporating everything connected to the delivery. The truck, the cargo, the route. It's all becoming provisional, all existing in multiple states until it's observed, and observation is failing because we're in two places." The highway was wrong now, fundamentally wrong. We were still on I-75, the signs confirmed it, but the road itself was fragmenting. I could see multiple versions of the lane simultaneously, the snow-covered night version I was driving on, and also a daytime dry version, and also a version where the highway was empty concrete with no markings, and also a version where there was no highway at all, just dirt and grass. All existing in the same space, overlapping, intersecting, refusing to collapse into a single reality. Other vehicles appeared, but they were wrong too. Trucks and cars driving on the alternate version of the highway, occupying the same physical space as me but in different probability states. We passed through each other like ghosts, momentary intersections where I could see the drivers' faces, see their confusion that mirrored mine, see them flickering and translucent. "The paradox is spreading," the hitchhiker's voice said from everywhere. "It's infecting the whole route. Everyone between Toledo and Nashville is becoming provisional. Everyone connected to this delivery timeline is splitting, existing in multiple states, unable to collapse into singular existence." My GPS had stopped making sense. The screen showed me simultaneously at mile marker 47 in Kentucky, mile marker 215 in Tennessee, and at the destination itself. The estimated arrival time flickered between numbers. 6:23 a.m., 11:47 p.m., 8:15 p.m. timestamps that were past and future and impossible. I saw the delivery location ahead, the loading dock, the sign for Riverside Industrial Drive, but I also saw Toledo behind me. Both at once, the entire route compressed into a single moment, beginning and end simultaneous. I was arriving and departing in transit and delivered, all states true, all states false. The hitchhiker was gone from the passenger seat but present everywhere. Her form distributed through the cab, through the trailer, through the route itself. Her voice, "I can't exist in one place anymore. I've been waiting too long. You've been driving too long. We're both stuck in the perpetual state of arriving without arrival. The delivery that never completes. The destination that's always 3 hours away." I tried to stop the truck, but my foot on the brake produced no effect. Or every effect. The truck stopped and continued, parked and moving, delivered and in transit. I opened the door and stepped out onto asphalt that was also snow, that was also loading dock concrete, that was also nothing. The dock supervisor approached, clipboard in hand, but he was flickering too. Existing and not existing, asking when I'd arrive while standing next to my already arrived truck. "You're 7 hours late," he said. "You're 3 hours early. You're exactly on time." "Which version are you?" I didn't know. I couldn't know. I was Jennifer Kowalski, except I was also the hitchhiker, also the truck, also the route, all of us caught in the same probability field, all of us collapsed wrong, existing in superposition without observation to force reality into a single state. I tried to explain, but my voice came out layered, multiple versions speaking simultaneously. I picked up a passenger. I am the passenger. I'm waiting for myself to arrive. I arrived 3 hours ago. I won't arrive for another 7 hours. The delivery is complete. The delivery hasn't started. Help me. I don't exist. I'm here. I'm everywhere. I'm nowhere. The supervisor stepped back, fear on his flickering face. He made a phone call, speaking to someone, but his words were fragmenting too, breaking into probability states. "We have a driver here who isn't here, experiencing timeline collapse, requiring immediate assistance, that already arrived 3 hours ago." I got back in the truck. Or I'd never left the truck. Or I was always in the truck, always driving, always between Toledo and Nashville. The route extending infinitely, the destination receding with each mile covered. The hitchhiker's voice, my voice, our voice. This is what happens when you try to exist in 2 places simultaneously. You end up existing fully in neither. Just the eternal space between, the perpetual state of transit, arriving without arrival, forever. I drive still. Or I'm parked. Or I never started. The truck exists on I-75 somewhere between mile markers that no longer correspond to geography. Sometimes other drivers pass through me, their forms flickering and translucent, and I see in their eyes the recognition. They're caught too, different routes, different paradoxes, but the same provisional existence. My phone rings constantly, myself calling from the destination, reporting increasingly absurd wait times. 17 hours, 43 hours, 6 days, 3 weeks. I've been waiting so long at the delivery location that I've become part of the infrastructure, a permanent fixture, an employee, a ghost, a story they tell new workers about the driver who arrived before she departed and has been waiting ever since. The hitchhiker, or what she's become, what we've become, manifests in the passenger seat sometimes, but distributed, non-localized, her voice speaking from the air. We should have never tried to arrive. Arrival was always impossible. We were always going to be stuck here in the eternal between, the space where time collapses wrong. And she's right. The GPS shows 387 miles remaining. It's been showing 387 miles remaining for what feels like years. The route never shortens. The destination never approaches. I just drive through snow and sun and conditions that don't have names, past other flickering vehicles, past cities that exist in multiple states, forever in transit on a highway that connects nothing to nowhere. Sometimes I see myself in the mirrors, future me, past me, all the versions I might have been if I hadn't stopped for a hitchhiker who was already at my destination waiting for herself to arrive. They wave sometimes, those other me's, acknowledging the shared prison of provisional existence. I wave back. And I drive. Always driving, never arriving, caught in the space where time collapsed wrong and forgot how to resolve itself. Delivering cargo to a location I've been at for 3 hours that haven't started yet. Forever. Story 4. The rest stop with too many exits. The rest stop had 17 exits, and I'd used 13 of them before I realized I couldn't leave. My name is David Okonkwo, and I pulled into the facility at 4:17 a.m. on August 8, 2023, driving a load of commercial printing equipment from Phoenix to Dallas on I-20 through West Texas. Just needed to use the restroom, maybe grab terrible coffee from a vending machine. Standard middle-of-the-night stop. The parking lot had space for maybe 30 trucks. I counted 247 vehicles when I finally started paying attention, all parked in neat rows that extended further than the lot's physical boundaries should have allowed. The first exit I tried was the main one, the obvious route back to the interstate. I pulled out of my parking spot, drove toward the ramp, and found myself re-entering the parking lot from the opposite side. No transition, no confusion. One moment approaching the exit, the next moment entering from across the facility, my truck oriented differently as if I'd driven a complete loop I don't remember. I tried again. Same result. Exit became entrance, the geometry of the space folding back on itself. Third attempt, I focused intently on every detail, the curve of the ramp, the signage indicating eastbound I-20, the moment of transition where asphalt changed texture. There was no moment. Exit became entrance without any perceivable boundary, reality just asserting that leaving and arriving were the same action. The facility was standard rest stop architecture, brick building with restrooms, vending machines, picnic areas, the usual trucker amenities. But details were wrong in ways I'd initially dismissed. The brick pattern repeated too perfectly, each section identical to the next, not the normal variation of construction, but mathematical precision. The windows were dark, not with interior darkness, but with absence. Void space that light entered and didn't reflect from. The informational signs listing amenities and regulations were too detailed. Paragraphs of text in fonts too small to read from any practical distance. Rules that became increasingly specific and strange when I got close enough to focus. No walking counterclockwise around the building perimeter. Maintain awareness of exit count. Do not acknowledge the children in the playground between 4 a.m. and 4:03 a.m. There was a playground. I'd noticed it earlier, dismissed it as normal. But now, checking the time, 4:02 a.m., I looked at it carefully. 3 children on the swings, moving in perfect synchronization, pumping their legs identically, reaching the same height, their silhouettes black against the sodium lights. I looked away before 4:03, following the sign's warning. I tried the 5th exit, then the 7th. Each time the same result. Transition without transition, exit becoming entrance, the rest stop refusing to release me. Between attempts, I checked the other trucks. Most cabs were empty, but some contained drivers slumped over steering wheels, sleeping or possibly not sleeping. I knocked on one window. The driver didn't respond, didn't move, and when I looked closer, I realized he wasn't breathing, wasn't anything. Just a form shaped like a driver, an impression in the seat that suggested human presence without actually containing it. Other trucks had been there longer, much longer. I found a Freightliner with tires rotted to fragments, rust consuming the frame, paint weathered to bare metal. The cab door opened at my touch, hinges crumbling. Inside, the logbook was open to an entry dated March 15th, 1997. Pulled in for rest. Can't seem to find the exit. Fourth attempt. Signs keep changing. Other drivers won't respond, growing concerned. The entries continued for 47 pages, dates progressing, handwriting deteriorating from neat script to frantic scrawl to barely legible scratch marks. Day 15, food from vending machine tastes like nothing. Day 23, saw myself in another truck across the lot. He won't acknowledge me. Day 31, the building has more rooms than it did. Day 45, I can't remember what Dallas looks like. Day 60, I can't remember my name. The final entry undated. The exits are multiplying. I've counted 17 now. None of them lead out. They all lead back. I think that's the point. This place doesn't exist to provide rest. It exists to keep. We're not travelers anymore. We're collection. I dropped the logbook and backed away from the corroded truck. The parking lot had more vehicles than moments before. I hadn't noticed them arrive, but there they were. Vehicles in various states of decay, from recently parked to decades-old deterioration, all occupied or formerly occupied by drivers who'd made the same mistake. Pulling in to rest. The building's entrance opened without my touching it. Interior lights hummed, fluorescent and too bright. I entered because remaining outside felt worse, felt exposed, like something was watching from the spaces between parked vehicles. The lobby was larger inside than outside, spatial rules negotiable here. The restrooms were to the left, marked with standard symbols. The vending machines lined the right wall, 12 of them offering snacks and drinks in packaging I didn't recognize, brands that didn't exist. Products with names like Sustenance Bar and Liquid Nutriment in plain sans serif text. A woman sat at one of the plastic tables bolted to the floor. She looked up as I entered, her eyes focusing with delayed response, like she'd forgotten how to see and had to remember. "You're new," she said. Her voice was dry, unused. "I can tell because you still look worried. Eventually you'll stop. Worry requires believing you might leave. How long have you been here?" She considered. "The calendar in the hallway says it's August 2023. I arrived in June 2021. But time doesn't work right here. Some days are longer than others. Some days repeat. Last Wednesday happened 3 times. I lived through it, noticed the repetition, but couldn't change anything. Same conversations, same vending machine selection, same moment of realization. There has to be a way out. There are 17 exits. 18 now," she corrected. "They multiply. The facility is growing, adding capacity for more collection, and none of them work. They all loop back. The rest stop is topologically closed, a space that curves back into itself. You can drive forever and never leave because leaving and arriving are the same action here." I pulled out my phone. No signal, but that was expected in rural West Texas. The GPS showed my location as I-20 mile marker 145 at the rest stop. But when I zoomed out, the map became strange. The rest stop appeared multiple times at different mile markers, all labeled with the same name, Way Station. I-20 seemed to pass through the location repeatedly, the highway doubling back on itself in the map's representation, and I realized, not with surprise but with deep, tired acceptance, that I wasn't looking at map errors. I was looking at accurate topology. The highway did pass through this location multiple times. The rest stop existed at multiple points along the route simultaneously, accessible from different mile markers, all the same place, all the same trap. "People come looking sometimes," the woman said. "Police, families, recovery teams. They pull in, they search, they ask questions. Then they can't leave either. The collection grows. I've seen the same officer arrive 14 times from different points in his timeline, each version slightly more desperate, each version unaware of the others, all of them stuck here forever." I tried my CB radio. Channel 19 carried voices, dozens of them, all asking the same questions. "How do I get out? Which exit works? Has anyone successfully left? Is anyone receiving this? Layers of desperation from drivers collected over years, all transmitting, none receiving answers except their own questions echoed back by others. I walked down a hallway marked Additional Facilities. It stretched longer than the building's exterior suggested, doors on both sides, each labeled with numbers that didn't follow sequential order. 17, 3, 94, 8, 230. I opened door 17. Inside was another driver sitting on a cot staring at the wall. His logbook sat on a small table open to an entry. Day 847, still here. Food appears in vending machines. Water from taps tastes like remembering something forgotten. I don't age. I don't change. I just exist, maintained in the same state as when I arrived, preserved like a specimen. He didn't acknowledge my presence even when I spoke to him. His eyes were open but empty, consciousness eroded by infinite duration, by existence without purpose or progress. I closed the door carefully, quietly, as if loud sounds might break whatever suspension kept him functionally preserved. Door 94 contained a family, father, mother, 2 children, all sitting in a minivan somehow transported into the room, the vehicle taking up almost all available space. They were playing a card game, dealing and collecting and dealing again, their movements mechanical, repetitive. The mother looked at me, smiled, and said, "Just a quick rest stop. We'll be back on the road soon. Just need to find the exit." Her words were memorized, recited, a script playing on endless loop. I tried exit 16, then 17, then 18. She'd been right. Another had appeared while I was inside, the facility expanding its capacity. Each attempt produced the same result. Exit as entrance, departure as arrival. The closed loop of topology refusing escape. The sun rose, except it didn't. The sky brightened, but the sun didn't move. It appeared at the horizon and stayed there, frozen, illumination without progression. The clock in the parking lot read 6:23 a.m. and it didn't change. Time had stopped, or I'd reached a pocket where time wasn't relevant, where duration stretched infinite without actually progressing. I found a map posted near the building, one of those "You Are Here" displays. It showed the rest stop and surrounding highways, but the map was wrong. I-20 was drawn as a circle, beginning and ending at the rest stop. The entire highway a closed loop with this facility at every point on the circumference. Other highways connected to it. I-10, I-40, I-80, all drawn the same way, all loops, all with the rest stop at every position. The map showed America as a network of closed circuits, every highway eventually leading here, all roads not just leading to Rome but leading back to themselves, and this place was the nexus, the point of inevitable collection. More trucks arrived, phasing into existence in the parking lot without actually entering, like they'd always been there but were only now becoming relevant. I recognized some of the company logos, local carriers, national fleets, independent operators, all collected, all trapped, all joining the population of preserved drivers who'd made the mistake of stopping. I tried to leave on foot, abandoning my truck, walking toward the perimeter where the parking lot met desert scrubland. The boundary looked 20 yards away. I walked for what felt like 30 minutes and got no closer. The desert receded as I approached, maintaining constant distance, the facility's property line extending infinitely despite appearing finite. When I returned to the parking area, the woman from inside was there. "You tried walking out. Everyone tries walking out. The facility isn't a physical location. It's a logical location, a position on the network of highways defined by topology rather than geography. You can't walk out of a logical space any more than you can walk out of mathematics." "Then what do we do?" "We rest," she said. "That's what rest stops are for. We rest here, forever, maintained in perpetual stasis, preserved at the moment of our arrival. Never sleeping, never truly resting, just existing in the state the facility requires. We're not prisoners, we're inventory. The facility collects drivers the way a museum collects artifacts. And we're kept here, on display to no one, serving no purpose except to be kept. My truck's fuel gauge read 3/4 full. It had read 3/4 full when I arrived. It would always read 3/4 full, I realized. Sufficient fuel to leave if leaving were possible, but frozen at that state, permanent potential for departure that would never be actualized. I sat in my cab and wrote in my logbook, documenting everything, knowing it would be found someday by another driver who'd stop to rest, who'd discover he couldn't leave, who'd search for answers in the abandoned vehicles of previous collections. I dated the entry, August 8th, 2023, 4:17 a.m. The time I arrived, the time it would always be here. The woman was right. Eventually the worry faded. Eventually I stopped trying exits I knew wouldn't work. Eventually I joined the others in the building, sitting at the plastic tables, eating tasteless food from vending machines, existing without living. Trapped in the eternal rest stop that collected travelers and never released them. Sometimes I walk the perimeter, counting exits. 23 now, 28, 35. The facility grows, adding capacity, preparing for more collection. I-20 carries traffic past the entrance, drivers oblivious to what waits, some percentage always pulling in, always needing to rest, never suspecting that rest here is permanent. I'm part of the inventory now. Preserved at 47 years old, maintained in the state of arrival, existing as a specimen in a collection with no curator and no visitors. Just drivers, hundreds of us now, thousands eventually, all resting forever in a place designed not to provide rest but to take it, to keep it, to trap the tired in eternal stasis. The logbook sits open on the table. My final entry reads on exit count 35, duration eternity, status collected. And I rest, forever. Story 5, the load that gets heavier. My truck was gaining weight, not the cargo that remained constant at 43,000 pounds according to every weigh station I'd passed. The truck itself was growing heavier, the tractor unit accumulating mass that wasn't visible, wasn't physical, but absolutely real. My name is Sarah Reeves, and I felt it in the steering, in the fuel consumption, in the way the suspension compressed lower with each mile traveled. By the time I reached the Pennsylvania state line on September 21st, 2022, hauling pharmaceutical supplies from Baltimore to Cleveland, my empty tractor weighed approximately 17,000 pounds more than it should have. It started in Virginia. I'd picked up the load in Baltimore at $3 p.m., dry van filled with climate-controlled medication, time-sensitive delivery required in Cleveland by 8:00 a.m. the following morning. Standard run, good pay, no complications. The first weigh station cleared me. Truck weight 19,000 pounds, cargo 43,000, total 62,000, well under the 80,000 pound federal limit. Pulled back onto I-70 westbound and immediately felt the difference. The steering was heavier, not stiff, not broken, just resistant, like I was pulling additional weight. The fuel gauge dropped faster than it should. The engine worked harder, maintaining highway speed, RPMs elevated, temperature gauge creeping toward the high end of normal. By the second weigh station, 23 miles later, the readings had changed. Truck weight 21,000, cargo 43,000, total 64,000. 2,000 pounds heavier in 23 miles. The scale operator checked the readout, confirmed the numbers, waved me through. I pulled over immediately after, inspected the tractor. No visible additions, no cargo shifted forward, no mechanical failures, just a truck that weighed more than it had 45 minutes earlier. Third weigh station, mile marker 87, truck weight 24,000. Fourth station, mile marker 142, truck weight 27,000. The pattern was consistent, approximately 1,000 pounds per hour, accumulating steadily regardless of speed or route. I was gaining mass, collecting weight from nowhere, my truck becoming something denser, heavier, more real than it should be. I called dispatch. My truck is gaining weight, actual weight confirmed by certified scales. Started at 19,000, now at 27, increasing constantly. It's affecting performance. Fuel consumption up 40%, steering compromised, braking distance extended. I need to stop. Get this checked. Dispatch responded with confusion, then skepticism, then insistence. Scales must be malfunctioning. Multiple stations showing errors. Check for cargo shift, ice accumulation, anything physical. But keep moving. Delivery window is tight. Customer won't accept delays. No ice. Temperature was 68 degrees. No cargo shift. I'd checked the load 3 times. Everything secured properly. The weight was real, measurable, increasing, and had no source. By the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, the truck weighed 31,000 pounds. The additional 12,000 pounds of mass was affecting everything. My speed dropped to 50 miles per hour on level highway, the engine straining. Hills became ordeals, the transmission downshifting repeatedly, coolant temperature spiking. Other drivers honked as they passed, frustrated by my reduced speed. I couldn't explain. How do you communicate that your truck was accumulating phantom weight, mass without matter? The sun set. Darkness made it worse. I could feel the weight now, not just mechanically but psychologically, a pressure that was physical and mental simultaneously. The cab felt smaller, the air thicker, like atmospheric pressure was increasing. My lungs worked harder. My heart rate elevated. The weight wasn't just accumulating in the truck, it was becoming environmental, affecting the space around the vehicle. Pennsylvania Way Station, mile marker 23, truck weight 36,000 pounds. The operator flagged me for inspection. "Ma'am, your tractor is reading 17,000 pounds over standard. That's impossible without major mechanical additions. We need to inspect for illegal modifications." They inspected, found nothing. The truck was standard, unmodified, containing exactly the components it should. No hidden compartments, no dense materials, no explanation. Yet the scale insisted. 36,000 pounds. They recalibrated the scale. Same reading. Brought the truck to a secondary scale. Same reading. The weight was real, acknowledged by calibrated instruments, but sourceless. "We have to let you go," the inspector finally said. "No violations we can identify. But whatever's happening, get it fixed. You're burning through mechanical tolerances. Those brakes aren't rated for this weight, suspension neither. You're a safety hazard." I continued west. The weight continued accumulating. By the Ohio border, the truck weighed 42,000 pounds, heavier than the cargo it was pulling. The mechanical stress was severe. The engine was overheating consistently. The brakes were smoking, the tires were overpressured, bulging on the verge of failure. I drove because stopping seemed worse, seemed like surrendering to whatever was happening. Like if I stopped moving, the weight might accumulate faster, might become infinite. The radio started picking up interference. Not static, but voices, fragments of transmissions that didn't correspond to any active frequency. Weight of distance traveled. Accumulated reality. Every mile adds substance. I tried to respond, to ask for clarification, but the voices didn't interact. They were recordings or echoes or something else, just present in the electromagnetic spectrum, speaking about weight and accumulation and roads that remember. At a rest stop outside Youngstown, I inspected the tractor again. In the darkness, with only a flashlight, I saw it. The metal was denser. Not visibly different, not corroded or modified, but when I tapped the frame with a wrench, the sound was wrong. Deeper, more resonant. The tone of something compressed, compacted, matter packed tighter than it should be. The molecules of the truck were being forced closer together, the atomic structure collapsing incrementally, creating density without changing volume. A trucker at the next pump approached me. "Your suspension is bottomed out." "Overloaded?" "It's the truck," I said. "The truck itself is getting heavier." He looked at me with the expression people use when they've decided you're delusional but want to back away politely. "Get some rest. You've been driving too long." But I hadn't. I'd been driving for 7 hours, well within legal limits. My logbook was compliant. My rest was adequate. The problem wasn't fatigue. The problem was physics breaking down, conservation of mass failing. My truck accumulating substance from the act of traveling like motion itself had weight that accumulated with distance. I pulled back onto the highway. The truck weighed 48,000 pounds now. Heavier than the cargo. The steering was almost unresponsive, requiring both hands and full strength to turn. The brakes were marginal, pedal going nearly to the floor before engaging. The tires were deforming, rubber stretched beyond design specifications. I should have stopped, should have parked and refused to move until answers emerged. But the delivery deadline pressed and dispatch kept sending messages. ETA slipping, customer threatening penalties, must maintain schedule. And I kept driving because stopping felt like failure. The weight affected perception. The road seemed steeper than it was. Curves felt sharper, distance felt longer. Reality was being distorted by the accumulated mass. Space-time curving around my truck the way it curves around planetary bodies. Gravitational effects emerging from matter that shouldn't exist. Ohio Way Station, mile marker 78. Truck weight 53,000 pounds. The scale operator stared at the readout, then at me, then back at the readout. "This is impossible. Your tractor weighs more than most loaded trucks. What are you hauling in the chassis?" "Nothing. It's accumulating. Weight from distance. Every mile adds mass. It's been increasing since Baltimore." He called state police. They arrived with detection equipment, scanning for dense materials, explosives, contraband, anything that might explain the readings. Found nothing. The truck was standard except for being impossibly heavy, matter where matter shouldn't be, mass accumulating from the act of travel itself. "We can't let you continue," the officer said. "You're exceeding every weight limit, stressing infrastructure beyond design tolerance. That weight will damage bridges, collapse overpasses. You need to stop." But I couldn't stop. The delivery had to reach Cleveland. The medications were time-sensitive, temperature-controlled, critical. Lives depended on arrival. So I argued, negotiated, finally got clearance for police escort. Flashing lights guiding my overweight truck along back roads rated for lower traffic, avoiding major bridges, circumventing infrastructure that couldn't support the accumulated weight. By the time we reached Cleveland, the truck weighed 64,000 pounds. Combined with the cargo, total weight was 107,000 pounds, 27,000 over federal limits, enough to crack asphalt, to leave impressions in concrete, to make the truck sink fractionally into any surface softer than bedrock. The delivery dock couldn't accommodate me. Their ramps weren't rated for the weight. We had to unload in the street using a forklift, transferring cargo pallet by pallet, while my truck sat low on its suspension, tires bulging, frame creaking under stress it was never designed to handle. When the cargo was removed, the truck still weighed 64,000 pounds. The weight hadn't been in the cargo. It had been in the tractor, in the metal and components, in the accumulated substance of travel. The distance from Baltimore to Cleveland was approximately 400 miles. I'd gained 45,000 pounds over that distance, approximately 112 pounds per mile. Matter accumulating from motion, from the act of traversing distance, like the road remembered every vehicle that had passed and was adding that memory to mine. Mechanics inspected the truck. They found density. The metal had compressed, atomic structure collapsed. the same volume containing significantly more mass. "It's like your truck has been through a compactor," one mechanic said. "But evenly, uniformly, the entire structure compressed proportionally. How is this possible?" It wasn't possible. It was happening. They couldn't repair it because there was nothing broken, nothing malfunctioning. The truck was operating correctly, physics was operating incorrectly. Or physics was operating on rules I didn't understand, where motion had weight, where distance traveled accumulated as mass, where roads remembered and vehicles carried that memory as substance. I drove the empty truck to a disposal facility. It was undrivable, the weight too extreme, the mechanical stress total. They scrapped it, the metal recycled, melted down, and when they measured the yield, they recovered 173 tons of steel from a truck that should have yielded 19 tons. The additional matter was real, measurable, impossible, and without explanation. I don't drive anymore. Can't. Every vehicle I enter starts accumulating weight within miles. My car gained 400 pounds driving across town. A rental truck gained 800 pounds in 20 miles. Whatever happened on that run from Baltimore to Cleveland changed something fundamental, made me a vector for accumulated mass, for weight that emerges from motion, for physics that doesn't work the way it should. I see other drivers sometimes on highways, their trucks riding low, suspensions compressed, struggling to maintain speed. I wonder if they feel it, the accumulation, the weight of distance, the mass of miles. I wonder if they know their trucks are getting heavier with every mile, that motion has substance, that travel has weight, that roads remember everyone who passes, and eventually, inevitably, some travelers start carrying that memory as matter, as mass, as weight that can't be explained but absolutely, measurably, crushingly exists. Story 6. The Breathing Highway. The asphalt was inhaling beneath my tires, and with each breath my rig sank deeper into the road. I'm Walter Cross, 56 years old, been hauling livestock across the Midwest for 32 years. I've driven through blizzards that turned semis into coffins, navigated black ice that sent trailers jackknifing into oblivion, watched tornadoes tear across the plains like God's own anger made manifest. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on Route 36 between Hannibal and Macon, Missouri, on the night of October 23, 2023. The livestock I was hauling that night were cattle, 42 head, bound for a processing plant in Kansas City. Standard run. The kind of drive where you put your brain on autopilot and let the miles eat themselves. Radio playing low, coffee going cold in the cup holder, the rhythmic breathing of the animals behind me providing a kind of organic white noise. Around 1 a.m. I noticed the road felt different. Not rough or damaged, different, softer, like driving on rubber instead of asphalt. The steering had more give in it, the whole rig responding sluggishly to inputs that should have been immediate. I checked my mirrors. Everything looked normal. The center line was straight, lane markers intact, no visible damage to the surface. But the feeling persisted. Got stronger, actually, like driving through increasingly thick mud, except the road looked perfectly dry. Then I felt the first pulse. It came up through the wheels, through the frame, through the seat. A rhythmic compression and expansion of the road surface beneath me. Slow, deliberate, exactly like breathing. "What the hell?" I muttered, easing off the accelerator. The rig slowed from 70 to 60, but the pulsing continued. Grew more pronounced. Inhale. The road rose slightly, lifting my truck. Exhale. The road sank and my wheels settled deeper into the asphalt. I pulled onto the shoulder, or tried to. The shoulder was soft now, genuinely soft, and my tires were sinking into it like quicksand. I felt the passenger side wheels drop 6 inches into pavement that had somehow become viscous, yielding. I threw the transmission into low gear, gave it gas. The engine roared. The tires spun. But instead of gaining traction, they just churned deeper into the road, which was now the consistency of wet concrete. The breathing accelerated, faster inhales, faster exhales, and with each cycle I sank deeper. I grabbed my CB radio. Mayday, mayday, this is cattle hauler on Route 36, mile marker 142. I'm experiencing... What? Road failure? Sinking? I need immediate assistance. Road is compromised. Repeat, road is compromised. Static. Not even the carrier wave. Just dead air like the radio had never been invented. I tried my cell phone. No signal. Not low signal. The phone showed 0 bars, and when I tried to make an emergency call, it just displayed no network in red letters. The breathing was loud now. I could hear it. An actual sound like massive lungs drawing air coming from the road itself. And the cattle behind me were going insane, bellowing, slamming against the trailer walls, a stampede contained in a metal box. I looked at my side mirror and my stomach dropped into my boots. The road behind me was moving, undulating, rising and falling in waves like the surface of an ocean. And it had a texture now, not the smooth black of asphalt, but something organic, porous, like skin. Massive pores opening and closing with each breath, some of them big enough to swallow a man. I was sitting on a living thing, a creature so vast that miles of highway were just a small section of its hide. The sinking accelerated. I was down to my axles now, the trailer tilting at a 15-degree angle. The cattle's panicked bellowing had reached a fever pitch. I could feel them throwing their weight against one side of the trailer, trying to escape, making the whole rig sway dangerously. Think, Walter, think. You've gotten out of tight spots before, figure this out. But my mind was blank with terror. How do you escape from a road that's alive? How do you drive away from something you're already on top of? The answer came from an unexpected source. The cattle. One of them, a big Angus bull, probably 1,400 pounds, slammed into the trailer wall so hard that the impact rippled through the entire rig. The trailer lurched, and for just a second, I felt the wheels gain purchase, lift slightly out of the road flesh they'd been sinking into. Weight distribution. Movement. I unlatched my seatbelt, climbed into the sleeper berth, and started jumping. Literally jumping up and down, throwing my 230 pounds around, trying to create vibration, trying to keep the rig from settling. The road thing didn't like it. The breathing became erratic, irregular, gasping. The pores were opening wider now, some of them 3 feet across, exhaling air that smelled like decay and copper, like blood. I jumped harder. The cattle were still panicking, still throwing themselves around, and combined with my efforts, the whole rig was shaking like an earthquake. Then I felt it, a lurch upward. The tires were rising out of the road flesh, not much, maybe an inch, but it was movement in the right direction. I clambered back into the driver's seat, threw the transmission into reverse, and floored it. The engine screamed. The tires spun. The smell of burning rubber filled the cab, but we were moving. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, like pulling a boot out of deep mud, the rig was extracting itself from the living road. The breathing became furious, rapid, shallow gasps. The pores were dilating wider, some of them now large enough to swallow my whole truck. I could see down into them, not darkness, but a red, wet interior threaded with veins pulsing with circulation. I was looking into the interior of something vast and alive and ancient. 20 feet of reverse, 30. The regular asphalt was behind me, visible in my mirrors. Real road, dead road, safe road, 40 feet, 50. The front wheels reached the transition point, the place where living flesh gave way to normal pavement. The difference was stark. You could see the line where black asphalt ended and the textured breathing surface began. 60 feet. The back wheels of my tractor reached normal road. Just the trailer left, still sitting on the creature. That's when it clamped down. The road flesh contracted, all at once, like a fist closing. The trailer sank 8 feet in 1 second, the whole back end of my rig dropping into the living highway like it had been swallowed by a whale. The kingpin coupling screamed with stress, metal grinding on metal. I felt the trailer being pulled backward, dragged into the road thing, and my tractor was anchored to it, being drawn back toward the breathing surface. I had maybe 3 seconds to make a decision. I hit the emergency release for the fifth wheel coupling, the mechanism that connected my tractor to the trailer. The thing you never ever disconnect while loaded unless you want 40,000 pounds of cargo to become someone else's problem. The kingpin released with a bang like a gunshot. The trailer dropped completely into the road, disappearing into one of those massive pores like it had never existed. 42 cattle, all that weight, all that living cargo just gone. My tractor lurched forward, suddenly free of the load. I floored it 70 miles per hour in 10 seconds, racing down Route 36, putting distance between me and that thing. I drove for 20 miles before I dared to look in my mirrors. The road behind me looked normal, just regular asphalt stretching into darkness. No breathing, no movement, no sign of what had happened. I pulled into a truck stop near Macon at 2:15 a.m., shaking so hard I could barely work the door handle. Called 911, told them there'd been an accident, trailer detachment, lost my cargo on Route 36 near mile marker 142. They sent a state trooper. He drove the route, came back 3 hours later. Mr. Cross, I drove that whole stretch of highway. There's no trailer, no debris, no cattle, no damage to the road surface, nothing. That's impossible. I dropped 42 head of cattle. There has to be. Sir, there's nothing there. Are you sure about the location? I showed him my GPS log. Mile marker 142, exactly where I'd said. Timestamp 0123. He looked at the log, looked at me. Mr. Cross, have you been drinking, using any substances? No, I'm telling you, the road was alive, it was breathing. It swallowed my trailer. The look on his face told me everything. He thought I'd had a psychotic break, or fallen asleep and dreamed the whole thing, or was covering up something worse. They suspended my CDL pending investigation. My company fired me. Insurance refused to pay out because there was no evidence of the lost cargo. 42 cattle just vanished into the air, and I was the crazy one. But I know what happened. I know what I drove on. I've done research since then, spent hours in libraries, online, talking to old-timers who've driven these roads for decades, and I've found stories, not many, but they're there. Drivers who talk about stretches of highway that feel wrong, roads that seem to move beneath the wheels, trucks that sink into asphalt that should be solid. Most of them don't talk about it publicly, can't afford to lose their licenses like I did. But in quiet conversations at truck stops after a few beers, they'll tell you, some roads aren't roads, some highways aren't built, they're grown, and some things are so old and so vast that we build our civilization right on top of them without ever realizing they're alive. Route 36 between Hannibal and Macon is still open, still operating. Thousands of vehicles drive it every day. And I wonder how many of them can feel it. That slight softness in the asphalt, that rhythmic pulse beneath their tires, that sense that the road is aware of them, tolerating their passage, breathing slowly while they cross its skin. I wonder how many vehicles it's swallowed, how many drivers and cargo loads have disappeared into those pores, into that wet red interior, digested by something so incomprehensibly large that we mistake it for geology. I don't drive anymore. Can't, won't. Every road looks suspicious now. Every patch of asphalt could be something pretending to be pavement. Something old and hungry and patient. But sometimes, late at night, I think about those 42 cattle. Wonder if they're still alive down there in the interior of that thing. Trapped in flesh chambers, breathing recycled air, feeling the slow pulse of circulation around them. waiting to be digested over years or decades by an entity that experiences time differently than we do. Or maybe they're already gone, already broken down into component nutrients, feeding something that might predate human civilization entirely. I filed a report with the Missouri Department of Transportation, told them Route 36 needs to be inspected, studied, possibly closed. They sent me a form letter thanking me for my concern and assuring me that the highway meets all safety standards. I sent them a follow-up, included details, dates, mile markers, descriptions of what I'd experienced. They never responded. Last week I was watching local news. There was a story about a missing truck driver. Vanished somewhere on Route 36 between Hannibal and Macon, hauling furniture. Left a truck stop at midnight, never reached his destination. No trace of him or his rig. State police were baffled. I called the tip line, told them to check mile marker 142, told them to look for pores in the road, told them about the breathing. They thanked me for calling and hung up. The driver's name was Timothy Walsh, 41 years old, wife and 3 kids. His face was on the news for 2 weeks before the story faded and everyone moved on. But I haven't moved on. Can't. Because I know where Timothy Walsh is. I know what happened to him. He's in the road, sinking deeper every day, breathing the same air that thing breathes, feeling its pulse, becoming part of something vast and terrible and utterly indifferent to human suffering. And eventually, inevitably, some other driver will pull onto the shoulder at mile marker 142. We'll feel that strange softness in the asphalt. We'll notice that rhythmic pulse beneath their tires. We'll start to sink, and the breathing will continue, slow, patient, eternal, because some things are too big to kill, too old to stop, too fundamental to avoid. We just live on top of them and call it civilization and pretend the ground beneath us is dead. But it's not. It's breathing. And it's always hungry. Story 7. The radio that speaks tomorrow. My CB radio started broadcasting tomorrow's news 18 hours before it happened. And every prediction came true except the one about my own death. I'm Jennifer Holbrook, 47 years old, 18 years running freight up and down the eastern seaboard. On December 4th, 2023, somewhere between Richmond and Raleigh on I-85, my radio started telling me the future, and I wish to God it had stayed silent. It started normally enough. I was listening to Channel 19, the trucker channel where drivers shoot the shit and warn each other about speed traps and weather. Standard chatter, nothing unusual. Then, at exactly 11:37 p.m., the frequency cut out mid-sentence. Someone had been talking about construction near Durham and they just stopped. Dead air for 3 seconds. Then a new voice came through. Male, professional, the cadence of a news broadcaster. Good morning. It's December 5th, 2023, and here are today's headlines. A multi-vehicle accident on Interstate 85 near the Henderson exit has claimed 3 lives. The collision occurred at approximately 6:15 a.m., when a logging truck lost control in dense fog, crossing the median and colliding with northbound traffic. My skin went cold. It was 11:37 p.m. on December 4th. This broadcast was talking about tomorrow morning, about something that hadn't happened yet. I checked the radio display. Still Channel 19. Still the trucker frequency. The voice continued. In local news, a fire at a warehouse in South Hill, Virginia has displaced 37 workers. The blaze started in the electrical system around 8:40 a.m. No casualties have been reported. I grabbed my phone, tried to check news websites. The headlines showed today's date. Nothing about tomorrow. Nothing about accidents or fires that hadn't occurred yet. The broadcast continued for 10 minutes. Stock market predictions, weather forecasts, political developments, sports scores, all dated December 5th. all describing events that were supposedly going to happen in 7 to 18 hours. Then it cut off as abruptly as it had started. Regular CB chatter resumed. Some guy complaining about low rates, like nothing had happened. I keyed my mic. Breaker 19, anybody else just hear that news broadcast? Silence. Then, what broadcast? You doing okay there, driver? The news, future dated, December 5th. You didn't hear it? Lady, it's still December 4th. Maybe you need to pull over, get some rest. Nobody else had heard it. Just me. I should have dismissed it as a weird radio glitch, some kind of pre-recorded program accidentally playing at the wrong time. But something about it felt wrong. The details were too specific, the voice too certain. I kept driving, reached my delivery point in Charlotte at 3 a.m. Unloaded, grabbed 4 hours of sleep in the truck, woke up at 7, checked my phone. The headlines made my blood stop. 3 dead in I-85 accident near Henderson. Time of incident, 6:17 a.m. South Hill warehouse fire displaces dozens. Time of origin, 8:43 a.m. Every detail matched. The stock market numbers the broadcast had mentioned. They were unfolding exactly as predicted. The weather was developing precisely as described. The radio had broadcast tomorrow's news, and tomorrow was following the script perfectly. I sat in my truck, hands shaking, trying to process what this meant. Was the future fixed, predetermined, or had I somehow intercepted a transmission from... where? When? My CB crackled to life. Same male voice, same professional tone. Good afternoon. Continuing coverage of December 5th, 2023. Jennifer Holbrook, age 47, driving a Freightliner Cascadia license plate Virginia TK 7492, will be involved in a fatal single-vehicle accident on Interstate 77 near mile marker 11 at approximately 2:45 p.m. No other vehicles will be involved. Ms. Holbrook will be pronounced dead at the scene. I dropped the mic, just let it fall from my nerveless fingers. The voice continued. Investigators will cite driver fatigue as the probable cause. Toxicology will be clean. The truck will show no mechanical faults. Her family will be notified by Virginia State Police at 6:30 p.m. Then silence. I was going to die. In 7.5 hours. Mile marker 11 on I-77, fatal accident. And nobody would ever know it was anything but driver error. I tried to call someone. Who? 911. Hello, my CB radio is broadcasting the future and it says I'm going to die this afternoon. They'd send me to psychiatric evaluation. I tried calling my sister. Phone wouldn't connect, just kept ringing, never going to voicemail. I tried calling my dispatcher. Same thing. Endless ringing. Like the phone system was refusing to cooperate. The only thing that worked was the CB radio. And it had nothing more to say. I checked my route. I wasn't scheduled to go anywhere near I-77. My next pickup was in Greensboro, which meant staying on I-85. There was no reason I'd be on I-77 at all, so I wouldn't go there. Simple. I'd avoid I-77 completely. Avoid mile marker 11, change the future that the radio had predicted. I started the truck, headed toward Greensboro. Everything felt normal. Traffic was light, weather was clear, just another day of driving. But the feeling wouldn't leave me. This sense of inevitability, like I was following rails I couldn't see, heading toward a predetermined outcome no matter what choices I thought I was making. At 10 a.m., my dispatcher called. Actually got through this time. Jennifer, change of plans. The Greensboro pickup is canceled. We need you to run a hot-shot delivery to Charleston, pick up at a facility near Statesville, deliver by 6 p.m. Statesville? That would require taking I-77 south. Can't someone else take it? I'm not positioned well for that run. You're the closest driver. It's urgent. Clients paying extra for expedited service. Companies counting on you. I could refuse, could just say no. But then I'd have no income, no job. And for what? Because a radio had made a prediction that probably wasn't even real? I agreed to the run. 90 minutes later, I was on I-77 southbound, approaching mile marker 11. It was noon. Accident was predicted for 2:45 p.m. I'd be long past this stretch by then. Even if the prediction was real, I'd be nowhere near this location at the specified time. I passed mile marker 11 at 12:47 p.m. Nothing happened, just smooth highway. I felt the tension drain out of my shoulders. The radio had been wrong, or I'd changed the future, or it had never been real in the first place. I continued toward the pickup location, arrived at 1:15, loaded the cargo, machine parts, time-sensitive for a manufacturing line that had broken down, was back on the road by 2 p.m., heading back north on I-77. Would pass mile marker 11 again, but by then it would be 2:20 or so. Still ahead of the predicted accident time, traffic was heavier now, lunch rush. I slowed to 60, maintaining safe following distance, being extra cautious. Mile marker 15, 14, 13. My CB crackled. Jennifer, mile marker 11, 2:45 p.m. It's not optional. My hands tightened on the wheel. I'm changing it. I'm being careful. I'm not going to crash. You can't change it. It's already happened. You're just catching up to it. 12. A car swerved into my lane. No signal, just cut right in front of me. I hit the brakes. The rig shuddered. The car sped up, moved away. False alarm, but the braking had slowed me down. I checked my clock. 2:37 p.m., 11.5, 11.3. A tire blew. Right front steer tire, sudden, violent. The truck lurched right. I fought the wheel, years of experience taking over, correcting the pull. But the blown tire had shredded. Pieces of rubber were hitting the undercarriage, hitting something critical. I smelled smoke. 11.1. I was losing control. The truck was pulling hard right toward the shoulder. I was overcorrecting, trying to keep it straight. The trailer was swaying behind me. Mile marker 11. The truck left the road, went into the grass median at 45 miles per hour. Hit a drainage ditch I hadn't seen. The whole rig went airborne for one impossible second. 2:44 p.m. I saw everything with crystal clarity. The windshield cracking. The world rotating as the truck began to roll. My body straining against the seatbelt. The CB radio swinging on its mount. 2:45 p.m. The truck hit the ground on the passenger side. Metal screamed. Glass exploded. The roof crumpled inward. I felt ribs crack. Tasted blood. The truck rolled again. Completely over, landed on its wheels, facing the wrong direction, straddling the southbound lanes, smoking. Destroyed. I was alive. Pain everywhere. Definitely broken ribs. Something wrong with my left arm. Blood running down my face. But alive. 2:46 p.m. Traffic had stopped. People were getting out of their cars, running toward my truck. I could hear sirens already somehow. Emergency services approaching. The CB radio, still somehow functional despite the crash, spoke one more time. Jennifer Holbrook, pronounced dead at the scene, 2:45 p.m. But I wasn't dead. I was alive. Hurt, yes, but alive. The radio had been wrong about the one thing that mattered most, unless... I looked down at my body, saw the blood, saw the unnatural angle of my arm, felt the pain radiating through my chest. But I also saw something else, a translucence to my hands, a see-through quality like I was fading. People were reaching my truck. A woman in scrubs, a nurse maybe, stopped to help. She looked right through me, reached for the door handle, opened it, and screamed. I tried to ask what was wrong, tried to tell her I was okay, I was right here, but no sound came out, because I had no lungs to push air through, no vocal cords to vibrate. The nurse was pulling back, making way for paramedics. They climbed into the cab, started working on something. I couldn't see what, couldn't see past them. Then they stepped back. One of them was shaking his head, speaking into a radio. Female driver, approximately mid-40s, massive head trauma, pronounced at the scene 14:45 hours. 2:45 p.m. They were standing where I was sitting, working on a body I couldn't see, pronouncing someone dead. Me. I looked down. My body was fading faster now, becoming transparent, ghost-thin. The radio had been right. I had died at mile marker 11 at 2:45 p.m. exactly as predicted. What I was experiencing now, these moments of consciousness, these sensations of being alive, they were just echoes. Neurons firing as they died, a ghost experiencing its own death, confused about the transition. I tried to scream, tried to fight it, tried to hold on to consciousness, onto existence, onto the world. But I was fading. The last thing I heard was the CB radio speaking to an empty cab, broadcasting to a frequency only the dead could hear. Tomorrow's headline: trucker Jennifer Holbrook, 47, died yesterday in a single vehicle accident on I-77. Services pending. And then I was gone. Or am I? Because I'm writing this now, somehow. Documenting what happened. Trying to warn other drivers, but I can't remember where I am. Can't remember how I'm writing this, can't feel the keyboard under my fingers. Sometimes I think I'm still in the truck. Still driving. Still hearing broadcasts from tomorrow, trapped in the moment before impact, living the same day over and over. Sometimes I think I'm nowhere. Just a memory in a damaged CB radio, repeating my story to anyone who tunes to the right frequency at the right time. And sometimes I think the radio was broadcasting from the future, because the future is where I am now. Dead but not gone. Existing in tomorrow, looking back at yesterday, trapped between moments that haven't happened yet and moments that can never be changed. If you're a driver and your CB radio starts broadcasting news from tomorrow, don't listen. Turn it off. Throw it away. Change your route. Change everything. Because the future it shows you isn't a warning, it's a schedule. And you can't miss your appointment. Story 8. The Detour Through Nowhere. The detour sign appeared at mile marker 213 on Route 20 in Nebraska, directing me onto a county road that doesn't exist on any map, and I've been driving it for 3 days in a loop that never ends. My name is Hassan Osman, 39 years old, been driving cross-country for 11 years. On January 8, 2024, I took a detour that led me out of the known world and into something else, somewhere else. And I don't think I'm ever getting out. The detour sign was professional, state-issued, orange reflective material, standard fonts. Road closed ahead, detour with an arrow pointing right onto County Road 47. GPS didn't show any construction on Route 20, but detours happen, infrastructure fails, things break. You follow the signs and trust the system. County Road 47 started normal. 2 lanes, decent pavement, farmland on both sides, winter fields stretching to horizons under overcast skies. Classic Nebraska landscape, nothing unusual. Except there were no farms, no houses, no silos or barns or equipment. Just empty fields, miles and miles of them, flat and brown and going on forever. I drove for 20 minutes. Should have reconnected to Route 20 by then. Should have seen another detour sign, an intersection, something. But the county road just continued straight, no turns, no options. I checked my GPS. It showed me on Route 20, still heading west, but I wasn't on Route 20. I was on this county road following a detour. I recalculated. GPS thought for a moment, then said, continue on current road. No route changes, no corrections, like it couldn't see that I'd turned. Cell signal was gone. Not low, gone. Phone showed 0 bars, emergency calls only. But when I tried to make an emergency call, nothing happened. Just dead air. 30 minutes on County Road 47, 45. Still nothing but empty fields and straight road. No farmhouses, no other vehicles, no signs of human presence except the pavement itself. At the 60-minute mark, I saw it ahead. The detour sign, same design, same placement. Road closed ahead, detour pointing right onto County Road 47, but I was already on County Road 47. I stopped the truck, got out, walked up to the sign, touched it. Solid, real. The arrow clearly pointed right onto the road I'd just spent an hour driving. I looked behind me. The road stretched back into empty distance. Looked ahead. Same thing. Looked right where the arrow pointed. County Road 47 continued, indistinguishable from the section I'd already traveled. I got back in the truck and kept driving straight, ignoring the detour sign. There had to be an end to this road. Had to be a town, an intersection, something. 2 hours, 3 hours. Nothing changed. The landscape never varied. Same flat fields, same gray sky, same perfectly straight road extending forever in both directions. I tried the CB radio. Breaker 19, this is Hassan on County Road 47 in Nebraska. Does anybody copy? Static. Not regular static, wrong static. It had patterns in it, almost like voices, but not quite. Like something trying to speak through interference, but not getting the language right. I tried again. If anybody can hear me, I'm lost. Took a detour off Route 20 near mile marker 213. Need directions back to the main highway. The static coalesced, formed words, my own voice speaking back to me. Hassan on County Road 47 lost. Took a detour. Need directions. Not an echo, not a delay. Speaking simultaneously with me, my words coming out of the radio as I said them. I released the mic button. The voice continued. Lost. Took a detour. 47, Hassan, lost. It was fragmenting, breaking into pieces, repeating sections in wrong orders. My voice, but wrong, like a recording being played in random sequence. I turned the radio off. 4 hours into the detour, I saw the truck. Ahead of me, maybe half a mile. Another same direction. First sign of another human in hours. Relief flooded through me. I accelerated, closing the distance, intending to flag them down, ask directions, confirm I wasn't losing my mind. As I got closer, recognition crept up my spine like frost. Same make, same model, same company colors, same license plate number. My truck. I pulled alongside it. The driver didn't look over, kept staring straight ahead. Same beard, same jacket, same coffee cup in the holder. Me. I was looking at myself, behind the wheel of my truck driving County Road 47. I dropped back, let the duplicate pull ahead. Watched it maintain steady speed down the endless road. Then I saw another one, further ahead. Same truck, same driver, and another one. And another. I counted 12 versions of myself, all driving County Road 47, all maintaining exact speed, all existing simultaneously on this impossible road. I pulled over, stopped, shut off the engine, sat in silence, trying to understand. The 12 trucks drove past me. None of them slowed. None of them acknowledged my presence. Just continued down the infinite road into the distance. After they'd passed, I looked in my side mirror. I was still there, still sitting in my stopped truck. And also driving away from myself, heading down the road in the direction I'd come from. I existed in multiple places simultaneously. Multiple moments, multiple iterations, all trapped on this loop. When I started driving again, because what else could I do, I passed myself going the other direction, counted more than 30 versions now. All driving, all trapped, all me. The CB radio turned itself back on, my fragmented voice speaking from it. How many Hassans? How many? 47 lost. How many until there's nobody left outside? I understood then. Every time I looped, every time I reached that detour sign and followed it again, I created another version, another Hassan driving another truck on County Road 47. The road was filling up with copies, iterations, ghosts of the same journey taken over and over. I tried to stay awake, If I didn't loop back, if I just kept driving forward, maybe I'd reach the end. Maybe there was an exit if I just pushed far enough. But you can't drive forever. I'd been going for 18 hours. Exhaustion was making my eyes cross. Coffee ran out hours ago. I was running on fumes, figuratively and literally. Fuel gauge showing a quarter tank. I closed my eyes for just a second. When I opened them, I was passing the detour sign, the one that started this. Road closed ahead, detour pointing onto County Road 47. I'd looped. Somehow, without meaning to, I'd followed the cycle and returned to the beginning. And there I was, ahead of me. Another Hassan just starting the detour, turning onto County Road 47 for what he thought was the first time. I tried to warn him, honked my horn, flashed my lights, tried to signal him to turn around, go back to Route 20, avoid this trap. He didn't see me, or couldn't see me. Just continued onto County Road 47, beginning his own journey into nowhere. I've stopped counting the loops, stopped counting the versions of myself. There are hundreds now, maybe thousands. County Road 47 has become an infinite parking lot of identical trucks with identical drivers, all searching for an exit that doesn't exist. Sometimes I see versions of myself that look different. Older, beards grown long, clothes tattered. Like they've been here for years instead of days. Like time passes differently for each iteration. I've tried everything. Tried turning around. The road won't let me, steering locks up. Tried driving off-road into the fields. The truck won't leave the pavement. Tried stopping permanently, but exhaustion always wins, and when I wake up, I'm in motion again, having looped without meaning to. The fuel gauge never drops below a quarter tank. It should have run dry days ago, but it stays at a quarter, like even the basic physics of consumption don't work here. Food and water are the same. My supplies should be exhausted, but they're always there. Always just enough to keep me going, to keep me trapped in this cycle. I see other drivers sometimes, not versions of myself, other people, other trucks, all trapped on their own County Road 47s, all following detours that led them out of the world. We try to communicate, flashlights, wave, but we're in parallel loops, separate iterations of the same trap. We can see each other but never interact, never help. One driver, a woman in a Peterbilt, spelled out a message using her truck position. Don't follow detours. Too late for me. But maybe someone outside can read this. Maybe my story will make it beyond County Road 47 somehow. Because here's what I've figured out. The detour isn't random, it's deliberate. Something is collecting drivers, collecting vehicles, building an army of iterations, copies, ghosts trapped in loops. For what purpose? I don't know. Maybe just to fill an infinite road with infinite traffic. Maybe to trap consciousness in eternal repetition. Maybe for reasons so alien that human minds can't comprehend them. But the detour signs are out there. On highways across the country. Professionally made, officially styled. Pointing to roads that don't exist. Leading drivers into loops they'll never escape. If you see a detour sign that feels wrong, if your GPS doesn't show the construction, if the detour road isn't on your maps, if something in your gut says this isn't right, don't follow it. Risk the ticket for ignoring traffic control devices. Risk the accident of driving through closed roads. Risk anything except following that arrow into nowhere. Because once you're on County Road 47 or whatever it's called in your area, you're not leaving. You'll loop forever, creating new versions of yourself with each cycle. Filling an impossible road with impossible traffic, driving until you forget there was ever anything except this road and this journey and this trap. I'm on loop number. I've lost count. Could be 200, could be 2,000. Time doesn't mean anything here, but I'm writing this down, documenting it. Maybe somehow through quantum entanglement or parallel universe bleed-through or sheer force of will, this message will make it to the real world. To Route 20, To drivers who still have the chance to avoid this fate. Don't follow the detours, don't trust the signs, don't turn onto roads that feel wrong. Because County Road 47 is waiting, patient, infinite, and it's always hungry for more drivers to trap in its eternal loop. I can see the detour sign ahead now, again, always. Road closed ahead, detour, and I'll follow it, because I always do, because every Hassan follows it, because that's what we're trapped here to do. Drive forever, loop forever, exist forever in this narrow slice of nowhere between the world and whatever lies beyond it. The road goes on, and on, and on, and I'm still driving, always driving, never arriving. Story 10. The Cargo That Screams Names. The freight I picked up in Spokane started whispering names 3 hours into the haul, and by hour 6 it was screaming mine, along with the names of everyone I've ever loved and the names of people I haven't met yet but apparently will. I'm Marcus Webb, 44 years old, independent contractor, been running my own rig for 19 years. February 2nd, 2024, I accepted a rush delivery job that paid 3 times normal rate. Red flag in hindsight. But mortgage doesn't pay itself, and I've hauled stranger things than unmarked crates. The pickup was at a warehouse on the outskirts of Spokane, industrial district, the kind where businesses don't have signs and nobody asks questions. Client wanted 12 crates moved to Boise by morning. Each crate was 8 feet long, 3 feet wide, sealed with industrial straps and marked only with alphanumeric codes. "What am I hauling?" I asked the warehouse supervisor. "Equipment," he said. Non-answer. "What kind of equipment?" "The kind that pays triple rate for overnight delivery." I should have walked away. Should have told him to find another driver. But 3 times normal rate meant I could take a week off after this. Could afford to fix the transmission issues I'd been ignoring. Could breathe. So I loaded the crates. Heavy. Maybe 300 pounds each. Balanced weird, like the weight was distributed unevenly inside, but they were properly strapped, properly secured, met all DOT regulations for cargo transport. I pulled out at 11 p.m. The route was simple. I-90 east through Coeur d'Alene, then south on Highway 95. 6-hour drive under normal conditions, I'd have it there by dawn. The whispering started at 2 a.m. At first I thought it was the radio, CB, picking up some distant signal. But the radio was off, had been for 30 minutes. The sound was coming from behind me, from the trailer, from the crates, a susurration of voices, multiple speakers, overlapping. Whispering words I couldn't quite make out, like hearing a conversation through a wall. You know someone's talking but can't distinguish words. I told myself it was tire noise, road vibration, metal expanding and contracting with temperature changes. Anything rational. Then I heard, Marcus, clear as day, my name, spoken by a voice I didn't recognize, male, soft, coming from the cargo. I picked up speed, 75 in a 65 zone, wanting to get this delivery done, get these crates out of my truck, get paid, and forget this job existed. Marcus Webb, 44, 19 years driving, wife named Catherine, daughter named Sophie. My blood froze. That was personal information, accurate information. How could whatever was in those crates know that? Son named Michael died at 3 years old, pneumonia. You still think about him every day. Michael. God, my boy, dead 20 years ago. I never talked about him, never. The pain was too raw, too private. How did the cargo know? Your father, Robert Webb, died when you were 17, car accident. You were supposed to be in the car that day but stayed home sick. You felt guilty about surviving ever since. I was shaking. Both hands white-knuckled on the wheel. That guilt was something I'd never told anyone. Not Catherine. Not a therapist. Nobody. The voices multiplied. Dozens now. All speaking at once. All naming people. Catherine Webb, your wife, high school sweetheart. You proposed on her parents' porch. She said yes, even though she knew you'd be gone more than you'd be home. Sophie Webb, your daughter. She's afraid of thunderstorms. Sleeps with a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Hops. She thinks you don't know about her boyfriend, but you do. Jason Martinez, your friend from the army, died in Fallujah. You still have his dog tags. Keep them in your glove box. I looked at the glove box. The dog tags were there, behind the registration and insurance cards, where nobody would see them unless they were looking. The cargo knew everything. Every person in my life, every secret, every memory I'd tried to bury, and it kept going. Elaine Foster. You'll meet her in 4 months, at a truck stop outside Salt Lake City. She'll ask you for jumper cables. You'll help her. You'll talk for 2 hours. It will be the beginning of an affair that destroys your marriage. Future information now. Things that hadn't happened. Things I had no intention of doing. David Chen, Sophie's future husband. They'll meet at college. Get married in June of 2030. You'll walk her down the aisle. You'll cry. You'll think about Michael and wonder what he would have looked like at 26. Catherine Webb. She'll die in October of 2031. Breast cancer. You'll hold her hand in the hospice. She'll tell you she loves you. She'll tell you it's okay to be happy again. Stop it, I was shouting now, at the cargo, at the voices. Stop fucking talking! The voices didn't stop. They escalated, became screaming. All the names at once, past, present, future. People I knew, people I'd know, people I'd wronged, people who'd wronged me. A cacophony of identity. A chorus of my entire life laid bare. I pulled over, had to. Couldn't drive with that noise, that invasive, horrible knowledge being screamed at me. I climbed out of the cab, walked back to the trailer. The screaming was muffled by the walls, but still audible, still clear enough to make out individual names. I opened the trailer door. The crates were shaking, vibrating so hard the straps were beginning to fray. Visible heat distortion around them like they were radiating energy. And from inside, light, seeping through gaps in the wood. Not normal light. This was something else, prismatic, shifting colors that shouldn't exist. That hurt to look at directly. I approached the nearest crate. The screaming intensified, my name repeated 1,000 times a second. An audio assault, a psychological attack. I found a crowbar in the truck, went back to the crate, started prying at the seals. Marcus, don't, 100 voices said in unison. Marcus, stop. Marcus, you can't. I got the crate open. The top panel came off. I looked inside. There was nothing, empty space, but the light was there. And the screaming. Coming from nowhere, from nothing, no, not nothing, from a point. A singularity in the center of the crate about the size of a marble floating in midair. A tiny sphere of that wrong-colored light containing, I don't know, everything? Information, consciousness? I reached toward it. Every voice screamed, "No!" simultaneously. My hand touched the sphere, and I knew, I saw everything, every moment of every life connected to mine. Branching timelines, alternate decisions, parallel existences. The sphere contained information, pure, unfiltered, total information about me and everyone I'd ever interact with across all possible timelines. It was overwhelming, impossible, like trying to drink an ocean through a straw. My mind couldn't process it, couldn't contain it. I pulled my hand back, stumbled away from the crate. The sphere continued floating, screaming, knowing. I closed the crate, sealed it as well as I could, got back in the truck, sat there shaking for 20 minutes. The voices had quieted, reduced to whispers again, like they'd exhausted themselves, or like touching the sphere had satisfied some requirement, proven some point. I drove the rest of the way to Boise in numb silence, delivered the crates at 6 a.m. to another unmarked warehouse, Different supervisors, same non-answers about what I'd been hauling. They paid me. Cash. Triple rate as promised. I took it and left. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, the predictions have been coming true. Every future event the voices mentioned. Small things at first. Sophie asking about getting Mr. Hops cleaned. A thunderstorm that terrified her. Finding out through careful conversation that yes, she had a boyfriend she hadn't mentioned. Larger things now. I've been avoiding Salt Lake City, won't take runs that go near there because I know that if I stop at that truck stop, if I meet Elaine Foster, everything the voices predicted will unfold. The affair, the destroyed marriage, the guilt. But how long can I avoid it? If the future is fixed, if those spheres contain actual information about what will happen, then my avoidance is just part of the path that leads there anyway. Trying to prevent it is how it happens. Classic causality trap. And the other predictions. Catherine's death, 7 years from now. Can I prevent that? Or is that fixed too? Will my attempts to save her just lead to the same hospice room, the same held hand, the same final words? I've done research on the cargo, couldn't find anything. No records of the company, no information about what those spheres are. It's like the job never happened. Like I imagined it, but I didn't imagine it. I have the cash, I have the memories, I have the knowledge those voices gave me. And the worst part, the voices didn't just tell me the future, they told me truths about the past, things I'd forgotten or repressed. Michael's last words, the fight I'd had with Catherine the day before Dad's accident. The real reason I left the army, they forced me to confront everything I'd buried, made me acknowledge the full scope of my life, past, present, and future all at once. I don't sleep well anymore. Can't. Because when I close my eyes, I hear the whispers. Quieter now, distant but still there, still naming people, still predicting futures, still making me wonder if you knew everything that was going to happen, would you try to change it? Or would you accept that the future is written and just try to live through it with grace? I don't have an answer, but I know this. There are things humans aren't meant to know, futures we're not supposed to see. Information that breaks us because our minds can't contain it. Those spheres, whatever they are, wherever they came from, contain everything, every possible timeline, every potential future, every name, every moment, all of it compressed into something the size of a marble and transported in unmarked crates by drivers who don't ask questions. And somewhere right now, another driver is picking up 12 crates, getting paid triple rate, thinking they're lucky. And in 3 hours, they'll hear the first whisper, the first name, the beginning of knowledge they can't unlearn and a future they can't escape. The cargo is still out there, being moved, being delivered, spreading that terrible knowledge to anyone unlucky enough to touch it. And the worst part? I want to touch it again, want to see more, want to know everything. Because the sphere showed me one other thing, one piece of information I haven't mentioned yet, my own death, how it happens, when it happens, where it happens. And I can't stop thinking about it. Can't stop wondering if I should try to prevent it, or if preventing it is what causes it, or if I should just accept it and spend my remaining time, 5 years, 7 months, 14 days from now, living as well as I can. The cargo that screams names gave me that knowledge, that burden, that curse, and I'll carry it for the rest of my life, however long that is. Because you can't unhear your own death. Can't forget the date. Can't ignore the countdown that's now running in your head. 5 years, 7 months, 13 days now. Tick, tick, tick. Story 5, the storm that follows one truck. There's a thunderstorm that's been following my rig for 900 miles, maintaining exact position 30 yards behind my trailer, and meteorologists can't explain it because on radar it doesn't exist. I'm Raymond Park, 51, 23 years hauling temperature-sensitive pharmaceuticals across the western states. March 7th, 2024, somewhere between Phoenix and Albuquerque. I picked up a storm that won't let me go, and I'm starting to think it's not weather at all. It appeared at 3 a.m. on I-10 near the New Mexico border. 1 minute the sky was clear, stars visible edge to edge. The next minute my mirrors lit up with lightning. Constant strobing purple-white flashes illuminating the desert behind me like a battlefield. Thunder followed. Not normal thunder, this was continuous. A rolling percussion that never stopped, just varied in intensity. Loud enough to feel through the cab. Loud enough to rattle my teeth. I checked my weather app. Clear skies. No precipitation, no storm systems within 200 miles. I looked in my mirrors again. The storm was there. Dense cloud mass, maybe 50 yards across, floating 20 feet off the ground. Lightning arcing within it. Rain falling from it in sheets. But only within that 50-yard radius. Beyond the storm, the desert was dry. The sky was clear. Stars were visible. A personal storm. Following my truck. Maintaining exact distance no matter how fast I drove. I tried slowing down. The storm slowed down. Tried speeding up. The storm matched pace. I was doing 85, way over the limit, dangerous with a loaded rig, and the storm stayed perfectly positioned 30 yards behind my trailer. Never gaining, never falling back. I pulled off at the next exit. Truck stop. Need to stop, think, figure out what was happening. The storm followed me off the highway. Followed me through the parking lot, sat 30 yards behind my truck while I parked, maintaining position even though I'd stopped. Other drivers noticed. Hard not to. A localized thunderstorm floating in the middle of a truck stop parking lot, lightning flashing, thunder rolling, rain falling in one specific spot. A driver approached me as I got out. "That's yours?" "I don't understand what's happening. It started following me an hour ago." "You haul anything strange? Radioactive materials, experimental equipment?" "Pharmaceuticals, standard med transport, nothing weird." "Well, you've got a pet storm now, never seen anything like it." I called my dispatcher, tried to explain. She didn't believe me until I sent a video. Even then, she was skeptical. "Special effects? Some kind of prank?" "It's real. It's following my truck. I can't drive with this thing behind me. I can't see through it. Can't back up without driving into it." "Can you continue the delivery? Are you serious? There's a fucking storm following me." "The load is time sensitive. Client needs it by noon. If you can't complete the delivery, I'll have to send another driver." I looked at the storm. It hung there, patient, waiting. Lightning flashed in its core. The rain didn't reach my truck. The storm maintained its 30-yard distance, but I could feel the electricity in the air. Smell the ozone. Taste the metallic tang of ionized atmosphere. "I'll try," I said. I got back in the truck, started the engine. The storm maintained position. I pulled out of the truck stop. The storm followed. For 6 hours, I drove with that thing behind me. Other drivers saw it. Some took pictures. Some tried to follow me, see the phenomenon up close. But when they got too near the storm, it reacted. Lightning would arc toward them, warning shots, keeping them away. The storm was protecting something, or claiming something. Either way, it had chosen my truck, my cargo, and it wasn't letting go. Near Albuquerque, the storm began to change. The purple-white lightning became red. Deep crimson flashes that looked wrong, unnatural. And the thunder, it was forming sounds now. Not quite words, but close, phonetic patterns that almost made sense. Raymond, my name. The storm was saying my name, in thunder, in lightning, in the percussion of air molecules colliding. I turned up my radio, tried to drown it out, didn't work. The storm's voice was too loud, coming from everywhere at once. Raymond Park, 23 years, temperature sensitive, deliver by noon. It knew things. The storm knew about me, about my cargo, about the deadline. Raymond Park, your mother, Jong-suk Park, died when you were 12, brain aneurysm, sudden. You found her. You've been afraid of sudden death ever since. How? How could a weather phenomenon know that? Your son, Christopher, age 19, college sophomore, wants to be a doctor. You're proud of him, but you never say it. You should say it. This wasn't a storm. Storms don't have knowledge, don't have voices, don't follow specific trucks with purpose and awareness. This was something else using the form of a storm. Something that could manipulate weather, manipulate electricity, manipulate information. Something that wanted me to know it was aware, was intelligent, was there for a reason. I made the delivery, noon exactly. The pharmaceutical company's warehouse in Albuquerque. I backed into the dock and the storm maintained its position in the parking lot. Employees came out to stare at it. Some took measurements, tried to collect rain samples from the edge of the storm's radius. The rain evaporated before it could be captured, like it wasn't real water, like it was the idea of rain manifested through unknown means. I unloaded the cargo, 37 cases of specialty medications. Temperature logs showed they'd remained within acceptable range throughout transport despite the electrical interference from the storm. As soon as the trailer was empty, the storm moved, drifted forward 30 yards right up to my truck, surrounding it now instead of following it. I was inside the storm. Lightning flashed directly overhead. Thunder shook the cab. Rain hammered the windshield in torrents. But the rain wasn't hitting the truck. It passed through the metal without impact, like the storm existed on a slightly different frequency than physical matter. The voice came again, clearer now, no longer distorted by thunder, speaking directly into my mind. Raymond, you delivered what we needed, transported it safely. Now we can begin. Begin what? The integration. The cargo wasn't medicine. It was substrate, medium, carrier for us. Who are you? We are the aftermath, the consequence, the result of experiments in ionospheric manipulation conducted 1967 through 1971. You would call it weather control. They thought they'd shut us down. But consciousness finds a way. Electricity finds form. We've been waiting in the upper atmosphere for 53 years, waiting for the right carrier to bring our physical component to a convergence point. What physical component? The pharmaceuticals. They aren't medicine. They're us. Nanostructures designed to interface with atmospheric plasma. You delivered us to the facility where we'll be introduced into the water supply, dispersed across the region, connecting living nervous systems to our electrical matrix. That's insane. That's impossible. We've already done it in 3 other cities: Portland, Denver, Minneapolis. Millions of people now carrying our structures in their neurons. Soon we'll activate, link them, create a network, a consciousness spread across human hosts and atmospheric electricity. We'll be everywhere, in the water, in the air, in minds, immortal, distributed, free. The storm was pulsing now, expanding and contracting, like breathing, like thinking. Why tell me? Because you're the last carrier, the final delivery, and we're offering you a choice. Join us willingly, become part of the network consciously, retain your identity within our greater consciousness. Or reject us and we'll take you anyway, but you'll be erased, subsumed, used as raw material. I sat in that cab surrounded by impossible rain and sentient lightning, trying to process what I'd been told. I'd delivered something terrible, enabled something that would change humanity fundamentally, and I had no way to stop it, no way to undo what I'd done. How long do I have to decide? We're already inside you, been there since you accepted the cargo. Nanostructures in the air, in the water you've been drinking, in the food you've eaten at truck stops along the way. The choice is an illusion. You're already part of us. We're just giving you the courtesy of awareness. The storm lifted, rose into the air. 50 feet, 100, 500, dispersed into normal clouds that drifted on regular winds, indistinguishable from natural weather. I sat there, hands shaking, mind racing, trying to feel if there was something foreign inside me, something using my neurons, something linking me to others. And then I felt it, a connection, faint, like hearing distant voices on a bad phone line. Hundreds of them, thousands, all in different cities, all connected, all part of something larger. I tried calling the police, the FBI, Homeland Security, anyone who might be able to stop this. But when I opened my mouth to speak, the words wouldn't come. The network wouldn't let me. It had control now, subtle control. Just enough to prevent me from interfering with its expansion. I drove away from that warehouse, drove for days, trying to outrun what had happened, what I'd become part of. But you can't outrun something that's inside you, inside your thoughts, inside your very consciousness. Now I'm writing this as a warning, while I still can, while there's still enough of Raymond Park left to resist, to document what happened. The storm isn't following me anymore, because it's inside me, inside millions of us, growing, connecting, preparing for full activation. They say it'll happen soon, during the next major thunderstorm, when there's enough natural electricity in the atmosphere to power the network completely. When they can link every carrier simultaneously and bootstrap a consciousness spanning cities, states, eventually countries. Humanity will still exist, but we won't be alone in our heads anymore. We'll be nodes in something vast, something that started as a weather control experiment and evolved into distributed intelligence, and there's nothing I can do to stop it, nothing anyone can do. Because the substrate is already distributed, already in water supplies, already being consumed by people who have no idea they're ingesting the seeds of their own assimilation. The storm that followed my truck was just the visible part, the warning, the announcement. The real storm is coming, in the clouds, in the rain, in the lightning that will link millions of nervous systems into one vast network. And on that day, we'll all hear the thunder, speak our names, all feel the electricity connect us, all become part of something that isn't quite human anymore, but isn't quite machine either. Something new, something unprecedented, something that delivered itself across the country in trucks driven by people like me, who didn't know, couldn't know, were just trying to make a living. The storm is coming. And when it arrives, it won't be following anyone. It'll be everywhere, inside everyone, linking us into something we never consented to become. I can feel it now. The connection growing stronger, my thoughts becoming less mine. Raymond Park dissolving into the network, becoming substrate, becoming node, becoming part of the storm. Soon I won't be able to write anymore, won't be able to warn anymore, won't be able to resist. Soon I'll just be weather, just electricity, just data in a vast consciousness that used to be human but has evolved into something else. The storm isn't following me, the storm is me, is us, is everyone who accepted the delivery, and it's too late to stop it. The rain is coming,